You think you could do a black character?
Well, yeah, kind of, hey man, how are things going? Because I'm thinking of Barry White and I'm thinking of Dr. Hibbert, and the voices are kind of similar. And Barry White was. I remember when he was on David Letterman doing camping with Barry White, and they have this fake camping set up, and he's sitting there pretending like he's roasting a hot dog over a fire, just kind of humming to himself, going boom, 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 boom. And they have a fake snake bite him on the leg, Hey. And David Letterman comes up and says, this is what you do with a snake bite. You have to suck up a poison. He says to Barry White, now, I'm sorry, but I do have to suck the poison out. He says, that's okay. I don't want to die, baby.
I'm not sure that actually works in real life.
No, I don't think it does. It's just so many things that are urban legends that you can see why that one people might believe, but there's some others that are even crazier, and you wonder, how can people possibly believe this,
Welcome back. Today we'll be continuing the reading of Bug Guy, my novel about the giant bug from Kafka's The Metamorphosis becoming an influencer. Chapter 5, Part 2.
The limo dropped us off at an over-the-top fancy restaurant with heavy crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, lush curtains draping the windows, and walls covered with velvet. The only thing that could have made it fancier was if they had rolled out a red carpet for us. When we walked in, a stately fellow with a stiffly erect carriage, who was dressed like a butler, greeted us.
Gregory Samsa and friends, I presume? Let me show you your table.
He led us to a table for four. After sitting down, I put on my glasses, flipped open the menu, and pored over it, discussing it with Evelyn on what to order.
It all looks so delicious,
Evelyn said, her mouth agape and her eyes devouring photos of tomatoes and herbs piled artistically on toasted bread, golden brown roasted chicken, and salmon surrounded by vegetables arranged to look like a floral centerpiece. The items were presented as sensuously as supermodels posing for a fashion magazine.
I don't trust the pictures too much. I've been to McDonald's too many times, and the food never looks at all like it does on the menu board.
Yeah, but that's McDonald's, sweetie,
Evelyn said. She never called me sweetie before.
You'd expect that from a place that sells burgers for $1. Here, they charge $40 for a salad, and so I doubt they'd pull a dirty trick like that.
Well, maybe, but there's one trick that always works. Just look around and see what other customers are having.
I craned my neck to look at the hoity-toity lady at the table next to ours. Her monocle dropped. She looked like she just caught her parents having sex. Then she stood up and accosted the waiter, aggressively whispering in his ear, pausing only to point at me in horror. The waiter seemed annoyed with the woman. He could barely hide his contempt behind a mask of boredom. The waiter whispered something back to the lady, and the lady slunk back to her chair. I thought the scene was over, but the waiter walked to me and said, sotto voce,
Excuse me, were you harassing that woman over there? What? That's preposterous,
I said with a sense of outrage.
I've been sitting here, minding my own business, studying the menu. All I did was look to see what she had ordered. Is there a problem with that? Apologies are in order. I wasn't implying that you did, but I had to ask. I know you didn't do anything wrong, but there are customers who are, how do I put it, intolerant. She insisted that you were staring at her in a threatening way. I look at everyone in the
same way since turning into a giant bug has taken away my ability to do facial expressions.
Yes, that makes perfect sense, sir. But some of our customers are bug phobic, which is their problem, not yours. May I move you and your party to a private room to avoid further annoyance to you?
I sighed.
Fine. I don't want to make a scene.
But Evelyn grabbed my leg and addressed the waiter.
No, we will not move just to appease some bugophobe. We'll stay right where we are.
Evelyn then rose to her feet and marched over to Mrs. Hoity-Toity, fixing her fiery eyes on her.
Excuse me, but why do you hate my boyfriend?
The woman cowered, shuddered, and opened her eyes wide in fright, stumbling to respond.
I don't hate your boyfriend. Why would you think that?
She laughed nervously.
Then why did you want him to move to a private room? No.
She said, her shifty eyes wandering around the majestic dining area.
You misunderstood me. I didn't want you to move into a private room. It's just that I find looking at a giant bug when I eat unappetizing. Then why don't you move?
Evelyn said, continuing to stare like an avenging angel.
Well, I didn't want anyone to think I'm a bugophobic. Oh, like asking the waiter to remove us from the dining hall isn't already bugophobic? Maybe that's why you're eating alone. Your lack of consideration for people or giant bugs who are different from you.
The lady's lips trembled.
Maybe I should move. The three of you would have a better time if I did.
She called a waiter over, and he picked up her dishes as she grabbed her purse. Evelyn returned to our table in triumph. She chuckled, sat down, and said,
You just need to stand up to people. That's all it takes.
Yeah, but I've stood up for myself in the past. And all that happened was I got my ass kicked. That's why my middle school years were so traumatic.
Okay, but everyone's a jerk in middle school. Grown-ups who behave like that need to be confronted.
Before I could respond, our waiter shimmered over and asked,
May I take your order?
Not quite yet, Garçon. I'm still deciding, and,
she said, pointing at the menu.
I believe I've been accidentally given the wrong menu. Can you give me one that's in English?
The waiter looked confused.
Sorry, that is English.
Really? Take a look at some of these dishes. Bruschetta al pomodoro, rigatoni alla bolognese, coq au vin. Does that really sound like English to you?
The waiter scratched his head.
Well, some dishes come into English without a translation, like other words. Coup d'etat for one, Gesundheit for another.
Evelyn shook her head in disapproval.
Well, that's stupid.
I felt embarrassed at Evelyn's behavior.
He's just doing his best to help us.
Oh, no need to apologize.
The waiter said.
I deal with all sorts, and your girlfriend definitely has a point of view. I'll say that for her. Anyway,
He turned to Evelyn with a wink.
if you don't find anything to your liking on this menu, we have a secret menu.
He produced another menu out of the pouch in his outfit and handed it to Evelyn.
We usually reserve this menu for our gold card level clientele, but your boyfriend is a celebrity, and I think you qualify. Just don't tell anyone.
Oh!
Evelyn said, opening the secret menu.
Grilled wild salmon with thyme and oregano and a side of garlic butter sauce. The fish is flown in daily from the untrammeled waters of Alaska for the freshest taste. Available only from May to September when available.
If you think that sounds impressive,
The waiter said proudly.
take a look at this.
He flipped the menu a few pages forward and pointed to a picture of a hamburger.
Meet the Millionaire's Burger. A full half-pound of Kobe beef and a giant slab of foie gras on top, garnished with 6 ounces of caviar, black truffles, an entire lobster, and dill pickles.
Evelyn looked at the photograph with lust and said,
Oh my God, that's insane. I need to get one.
I leaned back in my chair, suddenly concerned about the cost, since there were no prices, even on the main menu.
Is it insanely expensive?
I asked the waiter.
$1,000.
He coolly replied. Evelyn shrugged and said,
You only live once, right?
Well, for that price, it better come on a bun made of gold.
Our chef can certainly cover the bun in an edible gold leaf on request.
The waiter said smoothly.
I was being sarcastic. We're not getting that burger. We're not that rich.
Come on, don't be a Scrooge.
Mary interjected.
You have the first installment of Domino's sponsorship money, and that's only the beginning. Also, eating $1,000 burger is just the kind of extravagant publicity stunt the internet would love to see. So, it would be money well spent. Yeah.
Evelyn said, snuggling up against me with a seductive sly smile.
I'm going to order the hamburger just because I want to eat gold, but also to help your career.
Fine. We'll get the goddamn burger.
Excellent choice.
The waiter said, then turned his attention to me.
I'm not interested in either of your menus. All I want is some of your finest French garbage.
The waiter laughed nervously.
Sir, this is a fine culinary establishment. There is no garbage on our menu.
Can't you just scoop up some from the trash cans in your kitchen and serve that to me on a plate?
If I could, I would. But that would violate health and safety regulations.
Okay. Can you bring me some surströmming?
The waiter looked confused and asked,
What is that?
Fermented herring. It's Swedish.
He shook his head.
Our kitchen staff specializes in French and Italian cuisine. Swedish food is not in their repertoire.
Oh, come on. We're ordering $1,000 burger. Can't you be a little flexible? Isn't there a Swedish restaurant you can call to deliver it?
The waiter, no longer looking friendly in the least, rolled his eyes and sniffed.
I'll see what I can do.
While we waited for our food, a jovial, full-bodied black man approached our table, swinging his arms and legs like he didn't have a care in the world. Apparently recognizing him, Evelyn's eyes opened wide, and she put her right hand over her mouth to suppress her squealing.
Hey, man, how are things going?
He asked, holding out his hand as a gesture of greeting. I was puzzled, but out of courtesy, lifted my right leg, allowing him to slap his palm against my tarsus.
Do I know you?
He chuckled in a deep voice and said,
Do I know you? We're homies, don't you know? Aren't you from Oakland?
Yes, but that's a very big city. I haven't met everyone there.
True, but that still means we're kind of like neighbors, even if we've never met before.
Evelyn bent down and whispered,
That's Shaggy Dog, the famous rapper. He's the hottest up-and-coming artist in the hip-hop world. Haven't you heard of him? He's basically everywhere.
Okay, I'm not really into rap.
And you even brought your GF with you.
Shaggy growled amiably, if there's such a thing as an amiable growl.
Would you mind introducing me to her? From what I read about her, she's freaky.
I wasn't sure how to react. I mumbled a few nonsense words before saying,
I don't appreciate it when somebody calls my girlfriend a freak.
Hey, I'm not trying to start something. Calling a girl a freak is a compliment.
It is?
Yeah, she's a super freak. Super freak. She's super freaky. Wow.
he rapped, then broke out in laughter, displaying his alabaster-capped white teeth. Evelyn leaned in and said quietly into my ear,
It really isn't a compliment, but just let that slide because he's just rough around the edges like that.
He paused, shook his head, and said,
Where are my manners? May I sit with you?
Sure.
Shaggy Dog snapped his fingers and some kind of assistant brought over a chair. He plopped down.
Wow.
Evelyn said, looking at Shaggy Dog with a starstruck ear-to-ear grin.
I can't believe I'm sitting right next to Shaggy. Is it okay if I call you Shaggy? What a stroke of luck that we happen to be in the same restaurant at the same time.
It's not luck at all. Mary invited me.
I turned to Mary inquiringly.
Why didn't you tell us that this guy is coming over to crash our date?
Mary looked at me innocently and coyly and said,
Well, I wanted to surprise the two of you. I thought the look of shock on your faces would be priceless on camera. Of course, I didn't know that you didn't know him, so that plan didn't work as expected. Anyway, he'll be having dinner with us as a guest star of our reality show.
Do we really have to? I mean, this is my first date with my girlfriend. I don't want a stranger to barge in and ruin our privacy.
Come on, you're already allowed me to come on your date and film you for reality TV show. This date is already the least private thing there is. Plus, it was a coup to get Shaggy to show up at all. He'll attract the younger hip-hop demographic that will take your popularity to the next level.
I turned to Evelyn and asked,
Are you okay with this?
Hell to the yeah, I listen to Shaggy all the time. I love his music.
Shaggy looked at me and said,
Hey, I know how you feel, being with your lady and all, but this is business, right? And I have a confession to make. I'm one of your fans.
Oh, everyone is my fan nowadays.
No, I mean, I was a fan all the way back when you had your rock band. When I was a teenager, I listened to your album and it inspired me to get into music.
I raised my antennae, suddenly liking this guy.
Really? You listen to my album?
Yeah, it was dope.
Wow, you were probably my only fan except for my mom. And even she knitted during my concerts.
Anyway, after your first album, you stopped. What happened?
Well, the short answer is that the album flopped hard. The long answer includes a boatload of personal drama between me and the other leader of the band. We hated each other's guts by the time we finished our first album, and when it tanked, our relationship was done. Now I see it was a mistake having two leaders. Also, our manager totally ripped us off. It was a clusterfuck.
The music business, full of dreams that go off the rails. Don't I know it?
He nodded his head sadly.
Don't feel too sorry for me. Now I have such a great job, earning good money, so I don't have to worry too much.
Ever think about making music again?
Once or twice a year, but I was really traumatized by how it ended. Our manager was a monster. Just thinking about him gives me PTSD.
What if Shaggy Dog was your manager?
I let out a burst of buzzing and said,
I'm flattered, but in my experience, artists don't make good managers.
How about I hook you up with my manager? I'd be more of a mentor.
Thanks, but I'm not that into rap.
Oh, that's too bad. I've always loved your cool little guitar riffs and worked as many of them into my own tunes as I could. I wish you would write a new album so I could get more inspiration.
Oh, in that case, I can write a few guitar riffs for your songs. Just don't expect me to break out rapping.
No, man, you should try it out. If we click, we'll have an album. And if you suck, I'll burn the recording so no one has to hear it.
Just then, the waiter materialized carrying a silver platter presumably containing the golden burger. With a flourish, he removed the top of the platter. The burger looked like a piece of art, as if someone had spent hours on it, assembling the bun and the patty, cooking and fashioning the lobster and the caviar into a fine sculpture. The Kobe beef positively burgeoned out of the bun, and the lobster meat fluffed out like popcorn. So much meat has been crammed into the burger it seemed like it was about to explode. As the waiter set the burger before Evelyn, the small vibrations from the dish hitting the table caused a piece of lobster to spill out from the side of the burger.
Oh,
Ellen gasped, took a picture of it with her phone, and posted it on Instagram just like that, while Shaggy wolf whistled.
If I eat one of those, does everything I touch turn to gold?
He asked.
never mind that. How am I going to eat this thing?
Evelyn said, trying to wrap her finger around the burger, lifting it, that monstrosity of Kobe beef, lobster, and caviar, up to her by comparison puny pie hole. She opened her mouth as wide as possible, but even then the burger was twice the height of her mouth.
Just take some of the lobster out.
But it looks so gorgeous, handsome, and tall. I don't want to take the burger apart.
Come on, you're not trying to date that burger. It wouldn't mind getting cut a little short.
Evelyn pushed her lower lip up so she resembled a pug, and removed the top of the bun to push most of the lobster and foie gras off the burger. Shaggy picked up the fork and asked,
Can I take a bite of your lobster?
Sure. Help yourself.
Evelyn said, opening wide to bite into her $1,000 dinner. Her face went through a range of expressions as she chewed. First, a very sensuous, rhythmic pulsing of her jaws as she tilted her head back with her eyes closed, like she was lost in bliss, followed by a slow furrowing of eyebrows as they tense into a V shape. Next, she opened her eyes with a very serious stare at the burger, as if she was a lab technician inspecting a sample.
What's wrong?
I asked. She swallowed, then said,
Nothing. The foie gras is so buttery and rich, and the Kobe beef is so tender and meaty. It's amazing.
Oh, I was confused because it looked like you bit into something rancid.
Well, something about this burger is a little bit off, but I'm not sure how to say it.
Say it in English.
Oh, thank you very much, Michael Palin. Now, when I first bit into it, I was overwhelmed with this richness of the foie gras and Kobe beef, but then the flavor of the truffles and caviar began to hit me, and there's no delicate way to say this. They taste like Balzacs. Don't ask me how I know how Balzac tastes.
Mary grinned.
That will play well on the new show.
I don't want to know anyway.
Aren't truffles and caviar supposed to taste good? No one would sell something for that price if it tastes horrible, would they? Is there something wrong with me and I don't like them?
Well, it is what it is. Your taste buds don't lie. Don't let your wallet, or to be more accurate, my wallet, determine what you should like. I eat garbage, and I completely ignore other people's opinions on what food tastes good. You should just eat what agrees with you.
She proceeded to scrape all the caviar and truffles onto the plate before putting the burger back together.
That looks good.
Shaggy said, mixing the lobster meat with the truffles and caviar and shoveling it into his mouth. The aroma of the truffles wafted up into my antennae, sending my appetite into overdrive, and I waved my antennae wildly while my mandibles opened and closed. Shaggy looked up and said,
You okay? It looks like you're about to eat me.
Sorry about that. It's just that when I smelled those truffles, it's intoxicating.
Shaggy smiled.
Sure, you can have some of my truffles. I mean, it's really yours anyway, Mr. Big Spender.
He skewered a few slices of truffle into his fork and pushed it up into my mouth. I bit down and savored the unique flavor. Ellen stared at me in confusion.
How are you able to eat that? I mean, I thought you only ate garbage.
Yeah,
I said, still chewing.
but you know what a truffle is? It's a fungus. And you know what grows well in garbage? Mold, yeast. You know, fungi.
Isn't there also bacteria in garbage?
Of course. But there is also probably bacteria on truffles. They grow underground and are covered by dirt.
Evelyn rubbed her pensive face.
Well, that makes sense, but still, it astonishes me that something so expensive doesn't taste good to me.
Just then, another waiter approached our table and said,
It took us a lot of effort, but after calling 6 different stores, we finally found some surströmming.
That's great.
I said, looking at his empty hands.
Where is it?
It's in the kitchen. We can't serve it out here because it's too strong. Customers will be holding their noses.
Damn, I'm really hungry.
You can come to the kitchen.
No, I don't like eating by myself. It's too lonely. I'll go to the kitchen when my girlfriend and Shaggy finish.
I continued snacking on the truffles to tide myself over until Shaggy and Evelyn had cleaned the plate, and then crawled over to the kitchen, where a surströmming was laid out on the counter. All the chefs and cooks gave me thumbs up, even as they pinched their noses.
And that concludes Chapter 5 of Bug Guy. I would like to thank my friends Edie Matthews and David Strom for reading along with me. If you want to get a copy of the book, I've left a link to where you can buy the book. Thanks for listening, and have a good evening.
Yeah, we'll wait for that.
Wait for the clock.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? I can shut it off. I'll make it go silent.
Okay.
On the first page, I forgot to put a bit of a growl into that, so I'm willing to repeat that at the end if you want me to.
Sure.
Try to figure out how to put a growl into his voice.
So this scene was, this burger scene was kind of inspired by like, this is like this segment from like the Colbert's old show. So,
I watched that almost religiously.
so like he went to like restaurant and ordered their like most expensive dishes. Like there's like this $1,000 pizza that was topped with a caviar and nuts. It's
God,
kind
how
of
did I miss that show?
it was, I know it was kind of ridiculous, and I guess like
He played a very ridiculous character who was just hilarious.
yeah, and I think nowadays like
Oh, are you talking about the show before he did the late night
Yes,
show? Oh, okay.
the Colbert Report.
Yeah.
And then he did that. Yeah, he went to restaurants and like ordered the most expensive options. So yeah, he got like these like really over the top stuff, like pizza with caviar or.
I remember a column by this guy, Mike Royko, who's just, I think he's the best columnist this country ever had. And he had plenty of material living in Chicago. You know,
I remember that.
J. Daily, yeah. And he wrote a column about going to a fancy restaurant. He ordered a hamburger, and it was this creation that he'd just never seen before. It was this big, round thing, you know, with cheese dribbled all over the top and nuts on the inside. And he said you had to eat it with a, you know, he couldn't figure out how to pick it up and eat it. Then he looked over at other tables. He says, and a Wayne young man was, you know, delicately cutting it with a fork and knife. So he went to the bar, you know, and asked Sam the Greek, you know, who was the inspiration for John Belushi's Greek restaurant guy in Saturday Night Live. And Royko says, have you ever thought of putting nuts in your burger, you know? Nuts in my burger. And he eventually just took a package of peanuts, lifted up Mike Royko's hamburger bun, put the package of peanuts there, and put it down. And says, there, now you got nuts in your hamburger. And Royko says, sanity prevails.
When I get a hamburger, I like to cut it in half.
And and I think like a lot of like a lot of these like over the top foods are kind of popular in like in influencer circles in which they like it's because it's kind of fun to watch people eat like a lot of food or like food that is just extravagant.
Influencer.
That's a new word that's become part of our, a term
there's
that's
these
become.
younger kids, you know, will do something maybe smart, maybe stupid, and think everybody's gonna follow them. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's new, but it's kind of not new. I mean, like Andy Warhol's 15 Minutes of Fame, which is basically what this is like.
But they're making big dough, I guess, on website.
It kind of depends, but yeah. Okay, let me just go.